Hi, welcome to the noise path, the sister channel of the signal path. And we're going to take a look at these wall plugs here. I have quite a few of these installed in the house. These are Zigbee enabled on and off switches that you can use for your home automation. I have them connected to the Samsung SmartThings. But something happens to these over time and they kind of fail. And it's really annoying because you gotta take them out of the wall and then see what's going on with them. And of course it disrupts your home automation. This is a slightly older model. It's the ZW4005 and it comes in a few different brandings. This is a GE one. Here's another one from Jasco, I'm not sure what it's called exactly. And this is an older model. The newer model has a few advantages. It has a much smaller depth, makes it easier to install, and it doesn't have a unique load line configuration. You can basically reverse them in any order you want, and that's quite useful because here if you reverse them, basically nothing works. It kind of has an automatic configuration. There's also a traveler output here. We can see clearly says no 120 volt. I believe that also is been designed such that if you accidentally connect 120 volts, it shouldn't matter so much. But they're really easy to install. Connect neutral, connect line, connect load. This is powered from the line and the neutral simultaneously, and then it of course closes the load into the line. These are relay-based ones. You can also get them in dimmer mode. But anyway, let me show you how they fail. And in case you have something similar, hopefully we can open it up and find out what's going on with them and do a quick repair on them. So here we go. I have this wired up. Now, of course, this is extremely dangerous. I have to connect this to an isolation transformer, which does provide a level of protection, but between these two volt nodes here, you still have deadly voltages. So please be careful. I don't recommend that you replicate this setup at home. You should really check it in the wall. But this is a symptom. You can see it just blinks, and this is not in some searching mode or anything like that. It just doesn't work at all, and pressing the switch up and down does nothing. Normally, when this is working, if you turn it on, you hear the relay click. In this case, because this is an on and off switch, not a dimmer. So yep, the other one does exactly the same thing. In some cases, you actually hear the relay constantly click. It clicks just as it does with the LED. So this is what the broken one looks like. So here's the unit with the paddle off, and as you can see, we see here a red wire. That's the antenna, of course. It's a clever place to put it. You don't want to put it inside this, even though this is plastic. It may be mounted in a metal box, in which case it would block most of the signal. This is a 900 megahertz antenna, very simple, but it's as outside of the unit as it can be. That's it. There's nothing unusual really going on. There's a little light pipe over here. That's where the LED light comes out. We need to take it out further. Okay, one step further, so we can already see where the AC goes in as well as the line is switched in. This is a big relay here, of course, which is the main relay. This will be replaced with some kind of a triac potentially in case of a dimmer. In this case, this is quite a bit simpler because of that. And we've got a couple of capacitors here, and we see the 4 terminals for the traveler as well as the line and load, and these engage with these other screws and metal plates in order to secure the wires. Now this is already fairly stuck in there. I'm going to work on this and remove this. This probably all comes out, and then we should be able to see the construction of this board. And here are the boards, and we can see this is a 2-board construction. It's really not that surprising. It makes sense to separate all the AC handling from all the digital circuitry. This is all the Zigbee module. In fact, these are the switches that you press when you press the paddle. And you can see antenna directly connected to this module. This is a ZW400301, which is an SoC with a Zigbee stack built into it. You can program it, configure it. Essentially, it's a single chip solution for this kind of thing, which makes sense, reduces the cost, and just implement it as a single module drop-in. Some matching for the antenna over here. There's a room for a triac, so it's obvious that through these 2 pins they can pass the triac signal back onto this board. You can see that's how the connection is made. They would have chosen to put the triac over here close to the microprocessor there, and this would eliminate this relay, of course, and that would get the dimmer function. So we don't have that, so this is a simple on and off switch. This means also that they can use the same design, just populate this or not populate it for the different functions. There's a bunch of components on this. Now, there's clear that the power supply is going to be on this board because there's no way they're passing the AC line through these. It would never meet clearance, or it would never pass safety, of course. And that means that some power supply in here is powering this portion of the circuit. And that makes sense again because you need some power for everything anyway, so this thing has some residual power consumption when it's not doing anything. So we're going to have to separate these two to find out where that power supply is and find the problem. My intuition says that this is a problem with the power supply because it looks like this blinking, and especially if the relay is clicking on and off, it's kind of trying to power on, but it can't. So it could be simply the switching power supply on this side that has a problem. Either way, we're going to have to separate them, and we can analyze them a little bit further. Okay, so now we can analyze this a little bit more. So on this side, we're fairly familiar with everything. Now if I flip it, we can see everything else. Aside from the protection circuitry here, there is a chip here. This single chip is a switcher IC. This is an LNK304 series, and this is designed to have very low external component counts and provide you with just a little bit of energy required to power on some of the other circuits. You can see how little space there is dedicated to this switching power supply here. And again, this is directly on the AC line, so it makes sense to put it on this board. Now there's a diode here. Here there's capacitors, inductors, as well as some other capacitors buried in there. These are all part of how that switching IC works. Now there's a few reasons why this could fail. Obviously the diodes could be wrong, but I don't think that's the problem, because we do get an initial burst of power that it turns on. Otherwise it would have either totally destroyed the Zigbee circuit, and we would never see the LED blinking. Now that means that this is trying to start, but it can't. So we should look at the feedback portion or the bypass portion of this chip during power on, and those are the components that could be faulty. These two capacitors here are very high voltage, 250 volts, so they sit on the AC line. There's a capacitor buried in there. That's part of the feedback. This is the main filter capacitor at the output. So I suspect something potentially could be wrong with this one. If this capacitor is gone bad, then this chip could never start properly. It would start and stop because it would not have enough storage in there to be able to fully power on. So that's kind of my intuition. We can go ahead and investigate that. We can remove that capacitor and measure it and see what its ESR is. If it's working properly, that would be a good place to start. So here's our suspect capacitor. I believe it is a 10 microfarad 25 volt capacitor, which kind of matches the specification sheet for that IC. So we can go ahead and measure its ESR and see how well it performs. So let's go ahead and use the Agilent E4981A to measure this as really high-end capacitance measurement unit, because we have it in the lab, so why not? And here are the clips. You can see the capacitor is already under on one of the leads, and I'm going to connect the other lead to it like so. And what do we have here? Wow, look at that. The capacitance is about 1 microfarad or so. It's about 10 times lower, but the series resistance is almost 800 ohms, and it keeps getting higher, probably because of the minor thermal effects and the voltage that's appearing on it. Yet this is pretty terrible. So this capacitor may as well not even exist the way it is, and that no surprise that the switching supply cannot start. Now we can replace this with another capacitor. I don't have a 25 volt one, but I don't have exactly the same capacitance at 65 volt, which of course doesn't matter. It just increases the volume of the capacitance in order to increase its breakdown. So let's go ahead and measure that. I'm going to go ahead and measure it like this and connect it here as well in exactly the same way, and check it out. That makes much more sense. Very close to 10 microfarad capacitance. The resistance is about 2.7 ohms, and that is much closer to what it should be. So we can go ahead and put this in there and put everything back together. Hopefully the switch would work. Here we go. Yeah, it fits nicely. There's lots of room over here. No problem to put it back in there. Okay, let's test it out. So I've already connected it. There's no power, so the light is of course off. I'm going to enable the power here. And what do we have here? Yeah, check it out. That looks good. Let's try turning it on and off. Yeah, look at that. It is looking very nice. Now the only other thing to test is to hook it up to Zigbee to make sure that that function is working, and then we're done. And as our last test, we can see that the Zigbee is working. So the light is right now turned off. Press that, and it turns on. And of course, it's following exactly what should be on the screen. Yeah, so it's pretty good. I should be able to turn it off also by hand and see that switch. Indeed, it is working. There it is, back to normal. Even though these devices are not super expensive, really throwing them out, you have to consider the energy footprint of something like this when you throw it away. So fixing it is always going to be better than replacing it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this first episode in the Noise Path. I'll see you next time.